On Monday, April 23rd, ex-user at Moye shared a video that showed a group of students at Lead British International School, Abuja, bullying another female student and the entire country watched with great concerns and thousands of reactions online, with many calling for the school management to look into the matter. The school has since been shut down. But this isn't the first case of bullying in schools that have gained public attention. In December of 2021, a video of a 12-year-old boy, Sylvester Oromoni of Darwin College, was writhing in pain, surfaced on the internet, and it sparked a lot of outrage. A few days after, the footage went viral and Oromoni died. In April 2024, a Lagos coroner, Michael Kadiri, ruled that Oromoni suffered avoidable excruciating pain due to parental and medical negligence. He also exonerated the school of negligence and the students accused of bullying the deceased. In December of 2020, 11-year-old Don Davis gained the public's attention and sympathy after a video his mom made about his poor state made it to the internet. In the video, his mother, Mrs. Deborah Okezie, lamented about her son's health and the mistreatment he suffered from senior students in his school, Deeper Life High School, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Now, shortly after the case became public, owners of the school responded to Mrs. Okezie and issued a statement noting investigations into the matter. However, the school later changed their story and claimed that Davis came to the school ill and Mrs. Okezie was in fact not his mother. After this, Mrs. Okezie instituted a legal case against the school management, including so much more. However, in May 22, all parties settled out of court. In June of 2021, another student, 14-year-old Karen Akpagas, a boarding student at Premier Academy in Abuja, died from complications after she was sexually molested. Now, remnants of a condom were found in her private parts, resulting to sepsis. And according to the mother of the daughter of the 14-year-old girl, she withdrew her daughter from the school after a frantic call in which she complained about her health and asked for aid. Now, Mrs. Akampa, the mother, said Karen didn't feel like her normal self, and she took her to the hospital 2 days after she returned home from school. At the hospital, the doctors discovered the condom and sperm remnants that caused sepsis in the 14-year-old girl. The mother said she never got a chance to ask her daughter about the person who abused her, and she died. In March of 2022, the mother instituted a 10 billion naira suit against the school management over negligence and failure of duty of care to her daughter. The latest update on the case was the court's admittance of vital evidence against the school management in July of 2023. 6 months later, there is still no news of any suspects being arrested, albeit protests have continued under the Justice for Karen hashtag. And there's more. In October of 2021, Nollywood actress Mercy Johnson Okoje called out and claimed her 8-year-old daughter, Purity, was being bullied by a teacher in school. Mercy Johnson took to Instagram saying, and I'm going to quote her, she tells her, and by her she means the teacher, to her face, her daughter Purity, that she does not like her mother, and tells her that celebrity kids are badly behaved and she should not bring her aura. She should stop feeling proud. She should not bring her online drama to school, end quote. Now, in response to Okoje's call out, the school management issued a statement noting an investigation into the alleged case of bullying, and the actress, however, did not share further updates on the matter. But one thing is certain, there's a prevalence of these stories, a litany of cases of students bullied with questionable conclusions in the history of this country, and there are too many. The question is, what is the root cause? I have a theory. It's the Nigerian society. Our culture is that of the oppressed and the oppressor. We have been socially conditioned to pick a side. You're either the oppressed or you are the oppressor, the superior and the subordinate, the oga madam and the domestic staff, the driver and the gate man, the senior student and the junior student, the government and its constituency. Bullying is commonplace in our culture, the way we refer to the introverted and quiet fellow as didiring. The shy student who has social anxiety and can't answer a question in front of the class properly is referred to as an ode. The way the madam loses patience with the quiet domestic staff who has no formal education and can't operate an air fryer, the newly arrived naive young man to a metropolis like Lagos, a concrete jungle, who quickly becomes prey in a cutthroat, brutal concrete jungle with its predators that comes in all forms, a downfall driver to the police, a scene out of countless of Nollywood movies. So what happens now? How can we safeguard our education system and ensure that such vile and brutality never happens again? I say it starts with us. It starts with us as a people, as a society, and as a country. On Breakfast Extra this morning, we seek to answer these questions and more, and maybe go behind to ask ourselves real questions. Should our education system be the same way that it is? Should our society be the same way that it is? And we promise to make it worth your while. So welcome aboard. I am Judith Atibi. Mizino Apio is here. He is my co-host, and always is ever looking dapper. Hi, Mizino, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, sipping my tea.
Would you join us? Please join us. Welcome to Breakfast Extra.
Good morning and welcome to the dailies on Breakfast Extra as we kickstart your weekend with the sense of family that Sundays are known for. Well, let's serve you up some, dose of headlines to get you informed for the day ahead. So settle in and let's dive into the stories making front page waves today. By the way, Judith, you spoke fire.
I did my best. I'm glad you liked it. I kept the entire team hanging. I didn't want to share it until the very last minute this morning.
That was grand.
So I'm surprised. I'm glad everyone had the same reaction. And I do hope that everyone back at home also had the same reaction that we did in the studio.
Now we're going to start the papers this morning. Let's start from the Punch newspaper. If you will join us, we'll let you know what's making front page news on the Sunday Punch. Now for the Sunday Punch, we have these headlines here. Poor power supply. Governors hire consultants to break Disco's monopoly. That's the Punch. It's on page 3. NGF sets up a dedicated power desk, engages local international stakeholders. States' investment in power will boost economy, provide jobs, say TUC NLC. Let's take example from Abuja State now, shall we? I guess. Still more for the Sunday Punch. Why Nigerians are angry with electricity tariff hike. Ex-Minister of Power. Maybe we should get him on the show. How gunmen shot me with AK-47, boat driver says, and frustration pushed me to consider taking poison or your amputee. There's more at the top of the Sunday Punch. Political polygamy, governor's spouses battle for first lady role. That's going to be a very interesting one, and you would find that one on page 41. And no law forbids polygamy in Celestial Church. Oshofa's son. Is it the Ashofa's son? I know, I'm not too sure, but very interesting read. This will make for a Sunday morning while you're sipping your tea like myself. Interesting. What
interesting indeed. All right, I'm moving on now to Daily Trust, Sunday's edition of the Daily Trust. And the very first headline that jumps at you on there is Nigeria rebounds, or rather Naira rebounds, sells for 1,280 Naira to a dollar at the parallel market. BDCs prefer solutions to depreciation. Currencies can't appreciate in a vacuum, Senator. And that's from page 4. You can find that on page 4. At the very top there, you see the headline. I was close to General Murtala. He died poor. And that's from Ambassador Aminu Wali. You can find that on pages 12, 13, and 14 of the Daily Trust. Come there to the bottom there, you see how low-income earners battle for survival amidst rising inflation, and you can find that on page 7. On page 5 of the Daily Trust is this headline: traders worry over rising extortion on Nigeria-Benin border. That's another one I would like to look into, Manzino. And at the bottom there is, we're checkmating smuggling, says Customs. Our officers deployed for patrol, says Immigration. Our men maintaining law and order, says the police. So who exactly are collecting these extortions from traders? Now you can find that story on page 5 of the Daily Trust. How rainstorms wreaked havoc on Ogun, Lagos, other communities. You can find that on pages 28 and 29. Foiled arrest, EFCC fortifies security, upgrades departments and zonal commands. You can find that on page 4. And also, missiles kill 19 children in Adamawa. That's on page 4 as well. And 4 die, 70 vehicles burnt in Rivers tanker explosion. And that's on page 6 of the Daily Trust on Sunday.
Two stories hit me hard here regarding the Naira rebounding. Can't appreciate in a vacuum. Very true. We're not selling anything, not exporting nothing.
Right.
So you can imagine what you have to do to the Naira to bring it down to about 1,000 Naira.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are making us suffer right now.
Yes.
Regarding the extortions at the Benin Republic border, if you've been there, you'd understand that it's an ecosystem that thrives on people who are crossing the border, and there's almost no way of, well, for anybody, any normal person to go around the system.
The piece from the investigative journalist is very, 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 I think you should check it out. We also did a little bit of expose on it on the breakfast show over the week, and it was very, very good. And he really talked about, custom officers and how they are thriving off of, smuggling goods as well and extortion.
Let's do the nation now this morning for a Sunday here. Rivers crisis, I won't govern on bended knees, says Fubara, standing his ground, alleges fierce ongoing battle to destroy state on page 5 there. For the story, a very interesting one of the instance from the accident from over the weekend. Pregnant woman, 3 others die, 100 vehicles raised in PH fire. That's where those pictures are from. And it was, I mean, I've witnessed these kinds of accidents before, once in, on the Legacy Battle Expressway, and it's not something you want to see with your naked eyes. Let's move on now. At the top of the nation, about Benin suspends palace aides for pledging allegiance to ONI, and Edo 2024, fresh trouble for PDP as Obe rejects Igodalo campaign role. You'd find that one on page 4. Let's move on quickly now to another paper, if you don't mind.
Yes, indeed. This time we'll move on to Sunday Telegraph. The very first headline that jumps at you, in fact, the most bold one there is more Buhari's ministers to get Sirika's treatment. Sources, past officials under investigation refund money to federal government. EFCC restructures, converts zones to directorates. That's an interesting one. You can find that story on the page 2 of Sunday Telegraph. At the very top there, Fubara, Wike go for broke as peace deal crumbles. And also, you find presidential initiative in energy sector will help Nigerians. I think that's an op-ed there. You can find it on pages 8 and 18 of the Sunday Telegraph. When you come down to the bottom there, Southeast communities desolate over insecurity. How residents fled, refused to return to troubled areas while mopping up to ensure life returns. And that's from Anambra State Commissioner there, a commissioner from Anambra State. You can find that story on page 3. And then when you go to the, should I say, the right side of the front page there, Ihedioha, Imo PDP chiefs may join LP. That's on page 5. Scores roasted. Oh gosh, that's quite the adjective to describe. Over 106 vehicles burnt in Rivers, Ogun tanker explosions. And that's on pages 6 and 30. TEF Fund, we have eliminated vendors' contracts in interventions, page 4. Oba Benin suspends 5 over inaccurate presentation of history. And that's on page 5 of Sunday Telegraph.
Yeah.
Very interesting how we use our adjectives.
I know, that was rather harsh. The Buhari ministers getting Sirika treatment. Yeah, that makes for a good season of CSI Nigeria. Or is it EFCC Nigeria?
Oh, that's
come up with that one later.
That's a series I'd like to watch.
It's unending. The Sunday Times here. Carnage, fire service in spotlight as oil tanker crash kills many in Rivers and Ogun State. That's a big headline for the Sunday Times. And that picture makes a return there again. And how fake drugs is compounding Nigeria's fight against malaria. And troops averts terrorist attack in Sokoto, neutralize 7, recover arms. And at the very top, effects of bullying on children, experts offer tips to parents. We also would be doing the same here, as we are discussing that inside of Breakfast Extra with experts as well. So you want to stay tuned for today's edition.
Absolutely.
What else do we have?
We got the Guardian Post for Sunday. And we're going to start over the very first one that jumps at you on the screen. There we go. Excessive heat in Yaoundé are killing our business. And then at the very, Yaoundé, I beg your pardon, at the bottom there, you find that story on page 6. And you see more here on page 9. This one is on pastoral visit to crisis-hit Muyuka. Bishop Bibi encourages Christians to keep the faith. And that's on page 9 of the Cameroonian, the Guardian Post. At the very top there for health tips, page 2, foods that help prevent kidney problems. That's very important there. This World, This Life, Yaoundé, abandoned newborn baby found with umbilical cord are still attached on page 5. A varsity student beats classmate for dating his mother. That's an interesting one. On page 5 as well. And Yaoundé driver vamooses with, that's a word I haven't seen in a very vamoose with employers 100 million francophone CFAs. That's a one to look out for. Businessman allegedly drugs, rapes own mother, and that's on page 5 as well. And at the very bottom there, second wife stabs husband for spending night with third wife. Interesting.
Interesting, yeah. Every headline on this paper, this Guardian paper, this Cameroonian paper is actually very interesting. And I think we missed out on the very first one. I think you should do that one again. Sex workers cry out. Excessive heat in Yaoundé killing our business. Details soon. I'm sorry, I had to do that.
Do it again one more time.
No.
Please, for posterity's sake.
Excessive, what's it called? Enunciation is not good for business either. In any case, I think that's as much as we can take for the headlines. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got more coming your way. All 3 hours for the show is going to be very exciting. We have got great packages for you, revisiting some of the stories from last week. It is the start of another week, by the way.
So absolutely.
We're hoping a grand week into May.
Oh, yes.
April is done.
Finally. And now we're well into...
It kind of went like that.
Did it?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, well, unless you're broke, it's slow. If you're not broke, it's fast.
So you're broke, so there you go.
I'm not. That's why it's fast. That's why it's rather fast.
Yeah, well, it was. I see what you're doing there. Exactly. I get it now. I have my wires crossed. But hey, I don't think it was because we're so busy with planning.
We were busy with setting off our Breakfast Xtra.
The time
kind of like went.
Yeah, that is true. I wasn't paying so much to the time. I was paying so much to the weekends. Every weekend, anytime it's a Wednesday, I feel like there's a fire.
Wednesdays and Mondays. And Sundays are Fridays.
Yeah.
So it's very weird for us. We're going to be asleep all through tomorrow.
Gosh, it's a different time zone. Time.
Exactly. We need our own clock.
But all the same, thank you very much for tuning in. That's all we can take on the dailies for today. That's all that we can take on the daily for this edition of the Breakfast Xtra for this Sunday. But do remember that there's so much more coming up. We're going to be talking about bullying. We also do have a lot more revenue collection menace in Abuja as well for a big report. So keep it locked on here, on News Central. Stay with us.
Welcome back from that break. Now, we're just talking about Lagos and Lagos happening to every single person. Has it happened to you yet? I'm talking about extortion. Now, this is something that has happened in other parts of Nigeria, and we've covered that inside of a report that we're going to be bringing to you. But when was the last time you were extorted? Not by your relatives and family, that's legal, but, other extortion.
Oh, those ones it's black tax. But, of course, I have been extorted. Yeah, black tax, of course. I've been extorted. And you should be the one answering that question.
Because I'm a motorist.
You're a motorist. You're on the bike.
Hold my tea. Let me tell you.
Listen, it's I can only imagine what's like going across state lines and then constantly having to deal with.
So state lines is one thing. Being harassed and extorted inside of a state is another thing, especially broad daylight. I call it broad daylight robbery. It's actually very, very disturbing. However, I've been able to circumvent this by only driving very early in the morning or very late at night, which my job actually insists or persists that I do. So it's not a problem again. However, if you do have all your papers and everything intact, you would not be extorted by, the extra taxes that the agencies that would, demand from you, like, Oga, how far now? What's up? This is not correct. That happens. I don't do that in any case. However, there are people who complain that extortion still happens, whether or not you have these documents. And in Abuja, we also hear that this is also a case. It's becoming a thing in Abuja. You have more on that.
We have more on that. So motorists in Abuja have complained about the continuous extortion from revenue collectors that are attached to a certain community, or rather a certain area, council within the capital. Now, this extortion that is going on there, we're going to have a journalist who is going to come on, our correspondent live in Abuja. He's going to come on to talk more about it. Now, what they say is that they continue to face harassment and extortion as they are allegedly forced to pay for several levies and unspecified penalties, including being issued fake receipts by the revenue collectors. And our correspondent Imarai Joshua, he goes in there to understand what exactly is going on. Who are these tax revenue collectors? How much are they collecting? And so much more. And Joshua joins us live now. Joshua, a very good morning to you, and thank you so much for coming on.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you.
Great.
Now, Joshua, you did a short package, if I'm correct. Now, we're going to roll the footages of that package very soon. But I want for you to just give us a snippet of exactly what it was like going on ground there to speak to the motorist.
Well, most of these motorists, they were not quite receptive to giving information because I understand the fear they have. I understand the fear that when they speak to journalists, I understand that most of them say their face might appear on TV, and that is that their fear particularly. And one thing this has cost us, it has given us not a big room to get the accurate information. But however, we tried as much as speaking to these guys and understanding the situation. We got to understand that these persons who collect this revenue are not quite identified. There is no means of identification to prove that this person is working with so and so, this person is working with this person or not. They just see random persons in Togs uniform, in unspecified uniform, unidentified uniform collecting this revenue. And it is something that drivers in Abuja are really battling, because you might just be driving on the highway and you just park to drop somebody, and somebody will come out from nowhere dragging your keys with you, just all in the name of collecting revenue and all in the name of enacting one law that the bylaw of Abuja says or not. So it has been a menace, and times that number, drivers are complaining. Drivers are actually voicing out that this thing has been going on and on and on and on. There seems to be no solution at the end of the road. The drivers are not seeing any light at the end of the tunnel, and it is quite disheartening for them.
All right, Joshua, what are the correct agencies or authorities that are supposed to collect levies or that are supposed to collect dues or maybe even punitive dues from motorists? Which are these agencies, the correct ones?
According to the bylaws of Abuja, it is supposed to be by certain area councils, like we are currently in AMA, and Abuja Municipal Area Council is supposed to be in charge of collecting that revenue. But however, getting on ground and even to the AMAC office, we spoke to a source who spoke to us off camera, says that those people who have been constituted to collect this revenue are not direct employees of the Abuja Municipal Area Councils, that they were contracted by certain people who collect this revenue, and these people are not directly on the payroll of the Abuja Municipal Area Councils. In other words, they are consultants who are placed in charge. Now, the question of who the consultants are is one thing that we asked, and we couldn't get any answers. So indirectly or directly, the Abuja Municipal Area Council is not saddled with that responsibility. They are giving out to consultants who go in consultancy service to hire these guys. And it is quite disheartening that the consultant is not known.
Right. Now, Joshua, just to put into context, how much are they collecting from the motorist?
They don't really have a stipulated amount they collect, because
and how many times are they collecting in a day?
Sometimes they might collect 3,000 naira, from the range of 3,000 naira to 10,000 naira. Depends on which charge they are giving to you. That depends on which crime they feel you committed, because these guys are now habitual judiciary on the streets who just issue out fines and tax to people who offend, or people whose paper they feel are not complete. Sometimes your paper might be complete and they just invent something from nowhere to just give you a task.
Right. Joshua, I can only imagine what the motorists are going through. We now have the package that you done going there to cover and speaking to the motorists. So we're going to play it now. Everyone, take a look.
Okay, why they do this kind of thing now? But it's not.
Angry motorists being apprehended by area council revenue collectors.
What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong?
While many of these videos were captured with a hidden camera, the situation is clear as many of the victims express a sign of helplessness.
I did wrong. I appealed for the paper. I went to the office. They did it. They did not tell me. That I have to go to different office.
Some of the motorists say they have been allegedly extorted and coerced into paying unspecified fines along with receiving fake receipts.
That's for Amax. You paid for Amax. You paid everything.
Despite the unclear nature of their activities, these men persist in operating under the guise of being government agents.
Behind me is the Abuja Municipal Area Council office, where we try to get reactions from officials but have been unable to. However, a source who spoke to us off camera says those who perpetrate this act are not employed by the area council but by consultants.
We don't know who are the real one and who are the fake one among them. The government should come out and speak, because the way they harass people, even the workers, they are looking for their daily bread. When you come to drop people, they will harass you. Because I'm seeing it like it doesn't help us. They're living in a place called Federal Capital FCT.
If you look at their work, it's also conflicting with that of the state government thing. So there's a conflict on who is going to pay tax to who. But the most important thing is that it's the public that is suffering. So the government needs to make a policy to differentiate from the local government to the state government.
I feel it is necessary for such people to be in the system. It's necessary for those people to have the authority and power to carry out, you understand, their jobs. And also on the other side, it will make Nigerians too to become responsible to get their own papers all the time. If the local government council establishes a particular department and their employees are meant to carry out a particular responsibility, and the revenue does not come back to the local government, the local government to at least set up a task force to ensure that such thing does not happen again, or the culprits, you understand, are brought to book.
Some motorists also alleging that these revenue collectors act in league with the police. They say this makes the situation more complicated, as there is definitely no help in sight for victims. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Well, Joshua, we've seen that report there. Very interesting. Thank you for that. But however, let's talk solutions now. Now, if motorists want to contend or at least authenticate these taxes that they are being taxed, where do they go to? Who do they go to report if they feel that they are being unjustly taxed?
Sadly, there is no system on ground to ensure that is put in place, because when you go to the secretariat, the AMAC office there, and you go to their secretariat to meet anybody who's in charge, there's nobody responding to you. It has been the plight of motorists so far that whenever they go to this office to make complaints, these complaints are not taken. It just gets entrapped into the normal public service bureaucracy and red tapism. And it has been something that has been a norm for a while. And these guys are complaining, but it's just that the complaints have been falling on deaf ears. There is nobody saddled with that responsibility of ensuring that there's transparency in the entire process. And I don't think there is help coming in anytime soon, unless the appropriate agency constitutes a committee or a task force to look into this. Now, we tried speaking with some of the area council's officials, but they seem apprehensive of speaking with us. They seem apprehensive of speaking with press because they feel they will be at the forefront of the camera. And this has made the entire work difficult because times without number, these people are still complaining and the complaints are still coming and nothing is being done.
All right, Joshua, so is it just one council or council spread across Abuja?
We have 6 councils spread across Abuja, but it might interest you to know that this revenue collection is not just a council thing. They have certain unions, they have certain bodies who collect revenues too. You might be driving along the Abuja, the airport expressway, and one will just stop you. And what is the person saying? That the person is with the National Union of Road Transport Workers collecting his own tax. Same as AMA. And when you present documents that you paid so revenue to a particular body, they tell you that this is not ours is this. And it might even interest you that in the case of these people collecting this revenue, they drag keys with drivers, they drag steering with the driver. There was even a case where a revenue collector was stabbed by a soldier man. He was stabbed and he was bleeding. And what happened? The soldier man sped up. There was even a case where we heard of somebody being shot on the hand because of revenue collection.
Are you saying they carry arms? Do they carry arms? These revenue collectors, if someone was shot?
No. Someone was shot. A driver shot someone. A driver who is an armed force officer shot a revenue collector who is trying to enforce that revenue collection. and some have even gotten wounded. That when I mean some, I mean the revenue collectors. They've been wounded. They've been malhandled, but still they still perpetrating this act, and they import foreign revenue that one is not even aware of.
Joshua, just to be clear, right? And so, is it residentials, and that by residential I mean private vehicles, or also commercial vehicles as well that are being extorted?
This thing has spread across to everybody. Anyone who has 4 tires in his vehicle is a direct victim of this act. No one is spared. As far as you have a vehicle and you are on the road, you might even drop or pick someone, you might be harassed. No one is safe anymore as far as you have a car.
Right. Joshua, many thanks for coming on, and we'll continue to follow the story to see how it unfolds, especially with the officials. Hopefully the right officials who are supposed to be in charge of tax collection can come out and, make statements on this. We also will offer a right of reply that they can come and discuss this with us here on Breakfast Extra on News Central. But many thanks, Joshua, again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And that was Joshua Imarai. He is our correspondent in Abuja and was talking to us about the recent tax collection menace going on in the capital, FCT, and that's Abuja. Very sad and distressing, to say the least.
If you stay with us, we are about to go into something that went viral through last week. The video of a young girl in distress being bullied in a secondary school, yet again in Abuja. Let's discuss bullying when we get back from the break. Welcome back. Now, last week, videos capturing a distressing scene where a female student being subjected to bullying by a group of her peers circulated widely across social media platforms, igniting a wave of outrage and demands for justice. The victim was identified as a student of the prestigious Lead British International School located in Abuja, became the focal point of a disturbing incident and has drawn widespread attention so far.
Now, the bullied student is Miss Namtira Wala, eventually sued over the incident of bullying and attack meted at her in the school. Now, this coming on the day, some anti-corruption groups and civil society organizations who, in their condemnation of the incident, describe bullying in schools as a long-standing issue that must be tackled by government and stakeholders. Now, Wala had asked the school authorities to immediately investigate and pronounce the stiffest possible sanctions in the students' rulebook on the Miss Mariam Hassan, Miss Falayi, and 9 other students who were part of the perpetrators of this bullying case.
Now, a decision to temporarily shut down the school came in the wake of the public outrage sparked by the circulating video. The announcement was made during a press briefing attended by concerned parents on Tuesday at the school premises. But here, joining us today to discuss this, we have Mrs. Olayinka Ogunde, Director of Studies at Moralville Academy. And of course, we also have Dr. Bojubola Abiri, Consultant Psychiatrist and Associate Lecturer, LASUTH. You're welcome, ladies. Good to have you.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this. Let's get started very quickly. And I'd like to ask what your positions are on this story and how it's developed so far. And let me start with you.
Well, I saw the videos and I couldn't get past 2 seconds. Disheartening, distressing, difficult to grapple with and understand how, a child would mete out humanity to another child. But I'm not surprised because, because of the work that I do, I sit at the other end of the line and I sit with children from ages 6 to 14 and even adults who are able to, tell you their experiences of bullying that they had as children and how unfortunately it has continued to impact them even to their adulthood, affecting how they relate with other people, affecting how they work, and affecting how even in, love relationships, they find it very difficult to have, confiding and very happy relationships with people.
Right. Ms. Ogunde.
Well, I saw it as something that I least expected because it was just like a wake-up call for us in school because this is like a pivotal discussion on something that affects the foundation of any learning institution. The first thing you should assure anybody is safety, and that's what is queried here.
Mrs. Ogunde, you run a school. What mechanism can schools put in place to ensure that this is not a case in their own schools? And well, let's start with that first.
Well, I think from the very inception of the school, you must be deliberate in early intervention. By early intervention, I'm talking about from the vision statement of the school. you must deliberately teach and foster kindness and respect. When there is kindness in you, you won't want to hurt another person. And when you have respect for me, I have respect for you, I understand you, I accept you, there won't be bullying, there won't be uncertainty in school.
Is it a natural thing? Would kids naturally just gravitate toward a hierarchy system and say, I'm, bigger than you, so I must be more powerful? Do you see that happening naturally, or is it something that is infused into their mentality?
No child, every child comes plain. Let's take that. So the things we see, there's so many things we take from our background, deliberately or not. For everything I do, everything I see, there's an action, there's something that goes into my brain. Thank God we have a psychologist here.
Yes.
So, a psychiatrist. So from the things that you ought to tell me, even if I'm not talking about it, I'm saying it, my brain is taking it. Register. So for this person in question, she must have seen something somewhere. Yeah. So that's why you have to be very careful about what you see, what you tolerate, what you promote, and what you celebrate in children.
Right. Let me come to you. We have seen cases again and again. This is not the first time. This is not the second, the third, or the fourth time we've seen situations that have been popular. And it makes me wonder about the other cases that have slipped through the cracks. And in your answer earlier, you were talking about how you see this every single day in your life. So I'd like for you to speak on the psychological effects of bullying long-term in victims of bullying cases.
All right. I think that, to properly answer that, it would be nice to tell us what bullying is so that people know. Bullying is intentional. It is repetitive. And it is a power play where you have someone who feels more superior because they are more intelligent, more influential, have physical abilities, and would take down the other person. Now, the prey in this situation who is at risk is more likely to be someone who is maybe of a minimal community, someone who has maybe a physical disability, who has a learning disability, or someone who is not as rich or not as beautiful or as influential as the other person may perceive. Now, the effects of bullying are far-reaching. They can be physical, they can be emotional, they can be psychological, and they can even be behavioral. So again, I think to properly also answer that, put into context the types of bullying. There can be physical bullying, where there's pushing, there's shoving, there's spitting, there's attacking someone, which is what we saw in that video. Yeah, there can be, online bullying, cyberbullying, which is, becoming the order of the day. There can be social bullying, and a lot of social bullying actually happens in schools, where children are excluded from activities. Children tell other children, oh, don't be their friend, don't play, don't play with them, don't go to their parties, and all of that. So it's important to, first of all, identify what sort of bullying is going on. When bullying does occur, of course, it has effects physically. Someone can become, physically debilitated or have, a problem that may never go away. It can also affect the emotional development of that individual. And so those kind of individuals who are bullied are, prone to low self-esteem, low self-perception, low self-worth. They have confidence problems. They're at risk for, depression. They're at risk for suicide, anxiety disorders, PTSD, to mention but a few. A case that I saw a few months ago was a child who started to void on himself, defecate and urinate on himself because of the bullying. Yes, because of bullying that he had gone through. They had said to him in those exact words, don't use our toilets. How and where should a child void when he's in school? And so that became the problem until, of course, we were able to take him away from that environment and, of course, institute certain psychological therapies to help the child.
You just said take him away from that environment, and I have seen situations in my own personal life where the child is clearly being bullied in school, but the parents refuse to take them out of that situation because they believe it will get you tougher and you have to stand up to your bullies. The reason why you're being attacked is because you're not standing up. How about you stand up? How about you get up? What would you say to those situations?
So the honest truth is you can't move every child. I have a 14-year-old that I'm currently seeing who was referred to me by the school psychologist. And why was he referred? This child started to have persistent negative thoughts of harming himself and harming others. In fact, he told me, he said, I wish a shooter could come to my school and shoot everybody. I wish a bomb could go off in my school. And I'm like, what of you? He said, I really don't care anymore. I'm that frustrated and exasperated. Now, parents need to listen. And we need to be intentional. You see, what we went through was more of teasing than bullying. Teasing is a form of bullying and it's still not acceptable. But parents need to understand that, you see, how you grew up and how these children are growing up is different. You'd be shocked that even when a child is taken from one school to another school, some children who are influential and strong enough will send messages to their friends in the other schools and say that, you know what, this child was being abused. This child was being abused. Take it up and continue to do this.
So, Ms. Ogunde, in these kinds of situations, how do you help the victims or, well, the perpetrators themselves? How can schools, what mechanisms can schools put in place to help these individuals?
The role of a school counselor is very important here. As a school, you must have an open relationship. Now, for us, where I work, the counseling thing is done by everybody. The class teachers, the school management team, and then we have a counselor that also works with you. At a situation like this, when the child comes in, you must first make the child feel accepted. If there is acceptance, then the child feels comfortable. And of course, you also need to let the other ones accept. We have like a form of ceremony that you make the child feel welcome. So if you're able to do this and you let everybody know that no one is bigger than the other, we are all on the same level, that I think would really help. So here, when you're having this, should I say, maybe societal, I'm bigger than you, I'm wealthier than you, I'm prettier than you, I'm fatter or something, class differential. If you're able to erase it to tell that we have different people, we are open in diversity, we are different, we are all different, but we are the same, like an inclusivity thing. It helps to take away things like this. So that's what we do.
Let me ask about how can, she just talks about, fostering a culture that is inclusive, but how can educators be able to identify bullying or see the signs of it and be able to curtail it, nip it in the bud as quickly as possible?
When I answer this kind of question, I usually say, sometimes you may never know. However, it's also very important to know each child, and it's not too much, even when you're in a school. To pay interest, know each child, know where they're coming from, and know when two differences start to happen. And so certain things like seeing marks on the child, a decline in academics, especially
from even being withdrawn.
Being withdrawn. A child being neglected by other people, a child asking for a lot of money, a loner asking for a lot of money from home, having his items damaged, or I lost my book, or I lost because the bullies are taking them and not letting them have access to them. And then of course sometimes you have a child who cries, a child who verbalizes that I am frustrated, I do not want to go to school. Or you have a child who is visiting the doctor very regularly, tummy pain, headache.
It comes from home.
Can I ask you to pause there? I want to ask a different but similar question to Mrs. Ogunde here. How do you identify the bully?
The bully. Sometimes when you see a child, that's the main person now. Sometimes it's like, yes. It's tough.
Because the bullies oftentimes are manipulators. And
very manipulative.
Traits as well. So they're able to slip through the crack and you don't know.
And able to control a lot and exert a lot of influence
over
everyone else.
Very manipulative. You can't, except you really understand, and of course you let the child know that they are witnesses. You have to really stay close to really be able to, and listen to other children, because there will always be eyewitnesses here and there.
So how then can we foster, prefer solutions and foster collaboration between students, teachers, and parents? Let me start with you.
Well, first of all, I would say let people know that bullying exists. We can't keep protecting our children and making it look like, oh, it's a sweet, safe world out there. Let them know. Let them know what it is, what it looks like, what it sounds like, and frequently remind them about it. Encourage your children to be role models. There's something that's called the bystander effect. If nobody's doing anything, and we saw that in that story as well, where that boy said, oh, but we also often say that for evil to triumph, it's for good people to do nothing. So let your child be the difference that we want to see. But you must also be a role model to your child, because quite a number of bullying incidences, and we haven't touched on that this morning, actually come because the child is frustrated and displeased with a lot that they're seeing at home, or that they're learning at home as well. So homes where there's domestic violence, there's divorce, absent parents, all of that, very, very important.
Real quick, Ms. Ogunde, your take on that last question, please.
On what, please?
Yeah, on collaboration and also
parents.
fostering, solutions amongst parents, teachers, and students.
Okay, so what I would say regarding that is that you need the activities. I love activities anyway. I love activities. So you need activities that would foster that one togetherness in them. Now we need activities like the children coming with the parent, and then also the school. That can help us.
Okay. Well, no, continue.
Okay, so I thought you were going to say something. So when you have such an arrangement with the school, It helps you as a school to, okay, so another thing is that meet the parents. Meet the parents of the child. When you meet the parents of the child, you know what their values are. Okay. You know what they believe in. It gives you an idea as to how some issues are handled at home. Then you also have activities wherein you call the parents, see how available they will be. Are you a parent that is present? Because when a child knows that, oh, my parent is present for me, and I can speak to them, they will listen to me. Or I have a teacher in school that I can speak to that will listen to me. I have a school director I can speak with. That, because you see, a lot of time they need to be heard. You need to teach confidence. You need to make them stand up for the truth. Sometimes it may be a bit difficult for you to be the only one talking. But there's something I tell them that when you speak out, it means you're going to go to heaven. You're going to see Jesus. So yes, because I deal with the little ones. You're going to see Jesus. So a lot of them want to see Jesus. So they'll tell you this is what actually happened. And I tell them, when you don't tell the truth, the devil is going to take you away. So because they don't want the devil to take them away, they'll tell you and they'll speak up. And we foster independence and speaking
that
out
is beautiful.
Is important.
Ladies, thank you so much.
The little
for
time we've
coming on.
allotted for this is not enough, and especially that this is a very robust conversation with you, Doctor, and of course with you, a proprietress of a school. Hopefully, we will have maybe put together a documentary and have you guys feature on it regarding bullying and the effects. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ladies. We appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you very much.
And that's all we can take for Big Story. But do not worry, we have Dashan Usman on standby to bring you news now. Dashan, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you doing, Judith?
I'm doing good. Were you bullied in school?
How are you?
I'm fine. Hey.
Were you bullied in school?
No, I wasn't bullied.
I trust you.
I knew how to handle myself at a very tender age, so I was never bullied. Some tried, but they didn't succeed. So
I trust you.
In my case, all the bullies in my case are now in politics. But let's not go there. Let's get the news, please.
Bring the news to us. Thank you.
All right, we begin the news by telling you that a massive fiery carnage on the east-west road in Rivers State has destroyed more than dozens of vehicles, scorched goods worth estimated billions, and claimed at least 5 lives. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara, who visited the scene of the devastating tragedy on Saturday, confirmed 5 deaths and 120 burnt vehicles. The devastating incident happened on Friday night along the Eleme axis of the road, which has long been neglected, increasing motorist risks. Reports suggest that the tragedy was triggered when a tanker navigating the dilapidated road was hit by another heavy-duty vehicle, igniting flames and an explosion. Away from that, porous borders, cattle rustling, night grazing and destruction of farmlands have been listed among the major pointers of the recurring crisis in Plateau State. Now, this was noted by the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, during the just concluded stakeholders meeting in Plateau State, north-central Nigeria. News Central's Chizoba Anyongwe tells us more.
This is certainly not the first time stakeholders from Bokos and Mango Council areas are gathered for this kind of meeting. However, it is the first time Operation Safe Haven is pulling together this number of people to brainstorm and chart a way forward for lasting peace on the plateau. Dissatisfied with the killings in the state, Commander of Operation Safe Haven says professionalism will remain his watchword for an end to these hostilities.
As I speak, we have a general court-martial going on to try cases of erring personnel. Discipline and professionalism remains our watchword with the highest level of impartiality and neutrality.
Not ignorant of remote causes of this crisis, stakeholders believe that if they walk the talk efficiently, the seemingly eluding peace on the plateau will be restored.
What is bothering people is people are chasing us and are telling us we are not an entity. Since so many years we are living here, even in the presence of the securities. So we need to follow the constitution.
Why Mango? Why Bokos? Why Barkelad? If you look at the bulk of mess and the bulk of potato, it's coming from these 3 local government areas. Can you see the handwriting coming from somewhere? maybe to weaken the economic activities of Plateau State.
It's not enough to just gather together and talk. Action, resolutions should be taken so that this ugly situation will be addressed.
Notwithstanding, the governor is optimistic that his administration will not relent in working towards ending these attacks in the state.
We have reinforced Operation Rainbow, and by the grace of God, very soon, Operation Rainbow and peace-building agents will engage community leaders, will engage our hamlets, will engage our traditional rulers, so that we can have peace on the plateau.
Several engagements have been held in the past, ideas have been exchanged, and promises made. Yet, the peace the state was known for has remained elusive. And so, coming days will be crucial in measuring the real impact of this meeting. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyonwe.
Thank you, Chizoba, for that report. Now, the Nigeria Correctional Service has been tasked to urgently remodel, decongest, and deploy monitoring devices at correctional facilities nationwide, including ensuring the conclusion of cases involving awaiting trial inmates in custodial centers across the country. Now, this has become apt in light of the recent jailbreak at the Suleja Correctional Service located in neighboring Niger State. Marvelous Obomanu tells us more.
Over the years, concerns have grown regarding the overcrowding of Nigeria's correctional centers.
You talk about correctional center, and we can talk about the population in correctional centers, yeah? The over 240 something, we know the total number. But the correctional service is not the only agency that have custodial rights and keep people in custody. We have about 19 of such institutions that people can be detained, but yet we do not know. Nobody knows, and I keep saying it. Nobody have that population of the total number of persons in Nigeria that are in detention facilities. Nobody knows.
This was a facility that was built to house 250, and obviously because of before the incident that happened, we had 499. This goes to what we keep talking about overcrowding in our correctional centers.
Despite the Correctional Service Act of 2019, which provides the way and manner custodial centers ought to be run, the number of awaiting trial inmates has continued to challenge the available infrastructure in the facility.
Obviously, we can see the walls are actually old.
It was the rain that put down the wall. So you cannot say it's the fault of the corrections. The corrections are using what has been given to them. So we are calling on the government to prioritize these issues, because if that continues and the pretrial detention issues keep escalating, we'll keep on radicalizing more Nigerians.
Although government has promised to ensure the return of fleeing inmates, many have expressed worry over the effective management of custodial centers sited close to urban cities.
This is a clear testimony. You can look at the environment. It shows that we need to relocate a lot of our correctional centers.
The Prisoners Rehabilitation and Welfare Action Prawa at this briefing in Abuja has expressed worry over the inability to effectively implement the Nigeria Correctional Service Act of 2019, which has taken care of challenges confronting custodial centers in Nigeria.
If we had this implemented and people were actually visiting the custodial centers every month, I doubt that we would, and not just visiting them as a box-ticking exercise, but visiting them to implement everything that the Act has said they should. I doubt that we would get to the point where we are at.
This could have been avoided if the right information, at the appropriate time had been disseminated with regards to the structure.
Data from the Correctional Service says that out of 78,621 inmates in the country, 54,177 are awaiting trial inmates. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obomanu.
The demolition of buildings in the right-of-way of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road has been flagged off by the Minister of Works, David Umahi. Now, the demolition exercise began at the Manichula Beach, Oniru waterfront on Saturday. The minister said compensation for owners of the affected structures has been adequately factored into the project and urged those affected to see the greater good of the project. The demolition process is expected to continue for some days. Staying in West Africa, with parades in the capital Lomé, Togo's ruling party and opposition closed campaigns on Saturday before legislative elections next week after a divisive constitutional reform that has fueled political tensions. Monday's ballot will take place after lawmakers this month pass the reform that critics say allows President Faure Gnassingbe to extend his family's more than 50 years in power in the small West African state. Togo's opposition boycotted the last legislative election in 2018, citing irregularities. Now, this time, they have rallied supporters to exchange or challenge the dominance of Gnassingbe's ruling UNIR party. With caravans of vehicles, the main opposition National Alliance for Change, or ANC, crisscrossed streets of the capital before arriving in the public square for a rally.
Le jibena mia duakoke mija dayaji mia opposition ne mia mobiliser Togo jo wa d'accord na mi le gbo susu ne mi te do majorité su gbo l'assemblée a kan funa otro soro yin so mia be député la te nya be na o la te trose wan drofa
amese me nya e gbo be gasa ga mi lo ba ti kan donc e ke gbo ba le ve amole ni na e se ko gbo ba le trophy fia e ba motiver am so mon donc mi do la ruji kwe mia me di do nu se nu mia me di do be ni do la.
And that's it on Breakfast Headlines. I'm Darshan Usman. Now it's back to the anchors.
Thank you very much, Dashan. Thank you indeed.
You're welcome.
Did you find anything particularly interesting in today's news?
Well, except for the, coastal roads that's actually been in the process at the moment. I think a lot of people have actually complained. Lots of houses have been demolished. Business places have been, demolished. So there's been complaints. But, it's a good thing that News Central has actually been holding town hall meetings to put it to the government and get to know the feelings of the people and make sure that something has actually been done to compensate them.
And it's really sad indeed just to see how this has unfolded. We did hope that there would be some sort of conclusion where businesses didn't have to lose their properties and investments and people didn't have to lose their jobs. And it's so sad that it comes down to this, all for a shiny super highway.
Well, there are credits to the highway in any case. I mean, what's going to help the country gain economically? We get that. However, perhaps maybe there was a bit of miscommunication somewhere regarding where to plant a recreation center or where to buy land on the coast and all of that. But I do remember them saying it was actually rerouted, this superhighway, wasn't it?
Yes, it was rerouted. It was rerouted. This was not the original right-of-way, but all the same, we do hope and it's just, there are many other projects that are still, they should have been focused on instead of a 15 trillion naira shiny highway. But all the same, what do we know? We're just newscasters.
Thank you, Dashin.
All right, thank you so much, Mazino and Judith.
All right then. Alrighty then. So let's come back into the studio here with us and discuss something very, very interesting. Now, over the past week, there's been a very interesting story between the EFCC and a certain former Minister of Aviation that has caused us to take a critical look at the aviation sector and exactly what is going on there. It's been many years since we had what's it called Nigerian Airways, and then there was the supposed Nigeria Air that was supposed to take flight, but that was grounded due to, well, many factors, some of which we will discuss here today. And of course, we are also going to be doing that with an expert in the house. Now, I was talking about the 8 billion naira issue regarding Hadi Sirika brought against him by the EFCC, and also this is based on money laundering investigation. Sirika was brought to the Federal Capital Territory Command of the EFCC at around 1 p.m. on Tuesday, according to sources. And anonymous sources also said that within the anti-graft agency, they confirmed the arrest, stating that yes, that he was taken into the FCT custody, and he is currently meeting with the EFCC investigator over the 8 billion naira aviation ministry contract for many contracts that he put out. There were cases of nepotism, there were cases of structures that were supposed to have been built that weren't. This is just a small, what you call it?
Tip of the iceberg?
Tip of the iceberg when it comes to the case. There's many more, actually. Now today, our question is, when exactly will the aviation industry in Nigeria take flight?
Yes, indeed. We're joined, and to do that, we're being joined by our analyst today to answer these questions and more is Professor Anthony Killer, who has over years, and this time 25 years of practice in the aviation industry. He was a managing director, auxiliary at UK Aviator Company, pioneer chairman, Sabra Nigeria Travel Network. He has delivered keynote speeches at aviation forums across the world, and he is a key member of the Aviation Hall of Fame. And he joins us here now to discuss so much.
Well, Mr. Keller, good to have you on.
Good to have you.
Good to be here.
Now, I want to take it from the perspective of someone who is perhaps maybe on the streets, who maybe hasn't been in a plane before and has aspirations of actually being in one. And it doesn't know exactly why Nigeria doesn't have its own national carrier. Has heard of the Nigerian Airways from the past, but nothing else. What exactly is happening to our dreams of a national carrier in Nigeria?
Well, I mean, you call it dream. It's on people's desire. I think let's start from the basic, especially since you've chosen somebody who's far away from aviation. There are 5 major components in aviation. At the very basic level, aviation is about transportation, moving from one place to the other. In the case of flying, you're moving at a higher height and faster, but it's still just movement. You make it a bit more complex, or you widen the space when you had safety to aviation. You widen the circle a bit more when you add economy to aviation. And then you widen it a bit more when you add consumer rights or citizens' rights. Then you add it further when you add politics. So those are the 5 main components. In terms of the Nigerian airline, it's an old dream. There was a time when it was said that for a country to be a country, you need a flag, a land, and an airline. That's not really true anymore. That idea of government managing airlines is an old dream. These days, besides the fact that most airlines that were established by government have been privatized in one form or the other, it's more of a private sector business now. What you can have is perhaps to make sure that an airline that comes from your country is operating and it becomes the flag bearer. So the idea of government being inside it, well, it's no more a dream. It has turned to a nightmare.
We've seen the extent of that with all the activities between the former aviation minister and the EFCC currently. But we'll talk about that after.
Yes.
I'm sure Jude has.
I mean, for me, when you look at the aviation sector in and of itself, especially during Hadi Sirika's tenure, there was a lot of things that have bedeviled them, starting with the price of jet fuel, which hiked up, and then we saw the prices of tickets, flight tickets also going up as well. We saw IATA's issue with the Nigerian aviation sector when it came to repatriation of funds. And so far, so good. With a new appointment of the minister, aviation minister, now being Festus Keyamo, what are some changes that you hope to see with the sector?
Well, I hope to say comprehensive understanding of what the aviation industry is. Really go back to those basic points, that basic components of aviation that I have listed before now. I think that for the aviation, and I go beyond individuals or individual role, it's a system. For the systems to work effectively and efficiently, we need to understand that aviation is a gateway to our country. That's one of the first things that people see about your country, how you're judged, your airports and the flights that come in and come out, how accessible you are. So we have to see a very sensitive position. We also have to see that it's a very regulated industry, a regulation that goes beyond local or individual circumstances, because the 2 main bodies, IATA and ICAO, ICAO, the international bodies, and anything that happens, any airline in the world, no matter how remote, is linked to those rules. So we have to have that world view, that whatever we do in our country is something that will reverberate across the world immediately. So if you want it to work, you have to think that way. You also have to think, in my view, that the role of government in aviation is to make people move, because I said movement, and safely. That's the key thing. To make people move means that the flight have to be available and accessible in price. There is a wrong idea in Nigeria thinking that aviation is a luxury or something for the elite. If you look at the structure and size of Nigeria, you see that more people should be flying. So to make that happen, you need a philosophy, you need an aviation manager, minister of anything, or agency leader, regulators, that understands that you need to find every time a balance between making it safe and making it available and accessible.
Is Festus Keyamo capable?
Well, you can't really brush on a thing. He has done some things which I have praised. The last thing he has done, I think, is very unimpressive. As a matter of fact, to be quite brutal, I think unfortunate. The suspension of Dana Head, that's been his last move.
Why do you say it was unimpressive?
Well, because you see, so something happens and what you go and do is you suspend the operations of the airline. That is wrong. Everybody agrees that safety is paramount, including the operators, including the airlines. If you think about it, when the airlines fly, their pilots fly. No pilot would know that this thing is likely to crash and I'm going to fly it. Their life is at stake as well. But you need a broader view, you need a holistic view to know that, yes, I am for safety, but I'm also for making flights available. Making flights available means allowing people to fly. You also allow business to continue going.
But then again, that decision was taken from a very informed safety view. I mean, he was concerned, the general argument is about the state of the planes for Dana Air, the age where they're gotten from, how long they've been in service. So, I mean... Maintenance was also one of the questions that is a safety issue, why is suspension not impressive?
No, it's not impressive because let's be very careful. Aviation is it's not a common sense business. It's a very technical business. Airlines will be operative because they were clear to operate. They have scheduled auditing of their ability to operate. The fact that they are there, that means they're fit to be there. And if for any reason, if somebody thinks they shouldn't be there, then that thing should be petitioned, not before something happens to them. Number two is this. What happened to Dana here, specifically in this case, the fact that, they had to have an emergency stop. In the past, September to now, it's less than a year. September to, we're in April. So what is that? That's about 7 to 9 months. Yeah. In 7 to 9 months, we've had 5 other airlines have similar issues. So I don't do mutism, but in terms of number, you see that that's happened to other people. Why this heavy blown down here? There's something not good about that. It's not consistent. It doesn't show clarity. The other point is this. If we have an accident, which we didn't have, but let's say something bad was about to happen, what you do to ensure safety is vigilance. You say to them, let's see. Well, the first step is investigation. You investigate thoroughly what is going on here. Whilst the investigation is going on, instead of suspending them, I would, and I have proposed, that what you do is that you subject them to more rigorous check before they can fly. You can say, unlike other people, because you've had this incident, before any of your flight takes off, we're going to check that specific flight. Maybe you pay the cost, maybe it's going to cost you time. Why do we do that? Not because of love of Dana here, but because when you suspend the flight, when you suspend an airline from operating, you're disrupting the life and plans of many people who did not know you were going to suspend them a day before.
Yeah, but it's for their own safety, isn't it?
Well, it's for their own safety, but you see, this idea that you go to the dentist and say for your own safety you must feel the pain is archaic. It's not rational. In the new world, you anesthetize. You don't feel the pain. Nobody cries for going to the dentist anymore. If your dentist is still making you cry, change him or her. In the new world, you see, there's something very instinctive, very old about our society. The idea that you must be tough, you have to suffer, is not true. The new world, the modern world, the way we're building the world, and that's why we're not good inventors, is to make things easier. That is why water will flow in your room instead of wake up in the morning and go and get a bucket of water. So you have to make sure, you have to deliberately reduce the pain for people. Because you see, when you act commonsensically, for safety, let me stop the line. What you're not looking at is the broader picture. By stopping one airline, you are reducing the amount of supply of flights. That will cross a high in price. That would disrupt people's lives because they've bought their ticket Now they're going to ask for a refund, look for another ticket. It's just unnecessary chaos.
So the business administration part of it and the commerce part of it is the issue here. But let's also look at the part or the arm of the aviation sector that is in charge of maintenance of these planes. We saw an incident where a door opened mid-flight, you know, and there was also another account on social media. Now, I cannot confirm if that's true or not. Yes, skidding off the runway. So these are incidences like that. And there's an arm that is supposed to be in charge of maintenance and also where they go to hang this. But they're not fully functional. You're talking of a new world. They have issues with space. They have issues with their tools management. There's also a huge brain drain that is also needs to be factored in this situation as well.
Yeah. So what you need is a management that can understand helicopter view of the whole situation. What you need is a management that does not pick on operators. What you need is a management that look inwards to say, let me look at my agencies. Are they capable? Are they corrupt? Are they doing their work? You look inward first. You audit yourself first to make sure that they don't err. You see, the idea, and this is very important for us, if we're going to make progress in this country, we have to know that suspending the operations of an enterprise, of a business, of a project, of an initiative, is a nuclear button. It's something that you press it only at the last minute. Who are private operators, whether it's in aviation or anywhere? The people who have put their dreams, their money together, their plans together to operate, and they're playing the state to use their own idea. They're not nominated people. They didn't win election. They brought their idea, their sweat to build things. Those are the people we should be respecting in our society. Those are people that nobody should just be able to say, I suspend you. There's something really gross, barbaric about it. We need to think that way.
So, Professor, I can't let you go without bringing in let's cross over from the current Minister of Aviation to the past one, Hadi Sirika. I want to get your take on the purported purchase of an Ethiopian airline aircraft here in Nigeria, painted in Nigerian colors and logo and everything, to try and make it seem like the aviation industry is making an advancement. What's your take on that and the charges that he's facing currently?
Well, I think the charges he's facing, I'm happy he's facing them because he will have his day in court to explain what happened and why. So we're going to leave that to the court. In terms of system, I think the idea of, going to hire a plane and painting it is deceptive. It's something silly, deceptive, it's annoying.
Yeah. There's also another factor that the current minister is also part of the administration that actually handled this case as well.
Exactly.
Professor Skiama himself.
And it was a rush process as well towards the very
But in fairness to this minister, he has highlighted that is the wrong process. He's on record saying that he has received reports on it and there are shady things about it and he has submitted it to the president. That needs to be said. He was a minister then. But let's talk about system. The whole idea of that Air Nigeria project is something that, let's put it this way, it was conceived on PowerPoint, presented in PDF, and died on Twitter. Why? Because it is something that was built without the input of those who know, those who care. It was done over the head of stakeholders. You want to do an airline in Nigeria, you're going to somewhere in England to go and launch it at some silly thing. The only thing we got from that thing is the knowledge of that location in England. Airline we don't have. Jobs we have not created. Our money has disappeared. But there are some things that go beyond criminal, that are just ridiculous. And my thinking is that moving forward in this country, when people get arrested, besides being convicted, they need to be tested psychiatrically as well. At some point, we need to start checking the brain of the people managing our affairs to see if they're actually fit for purpose. Some kind of psychomental test to start us. But why do you do this kind of thing? We need to start looking at that. Because you cannot stay in office for 8 years. Then at quarter to end of the time of the game, and dying minute, as they say in football, you start rushing a plane, painting it to show what? That is not stealing, that is sick.
It's one of the questions that comes to mind when that was playing out was whether or not Nigeria needs an official airline carrier or an official carrier whatsoever. And I'm so glad that all eyes are now on Sirika, but also I'm very thankful that you stepped out to come out this morning to be with us and just answer our questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Good to hear.
Now coming up, we're going to have a chat with Michael Aondoakaa. He is a former Attorney General of the Federation on the Kano versus Pfizer debacle. What really happened? And how come we had such a little settlement? Stay with us. And you're welcome back. You're watching News Central TV, and this is Breakfast Extra. It's time for us to get into another big story for this time around, and this one is very, very huge.
Now, this is interesting. Now, in 1996, Pfizer was involved in a controversial clinical trial in Kano related to the antibiotic Trovan. The trial was conducted during a meningitis outbreak, and there were allegations that Pfizer did not obtain proper consent and that the trial led to the deaths of some of the participants, which included over 200 children. Now, some of them actually passed, while others were left with disabilities, some mute, while others had hearing defects. Now, the former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Michael Aondoakaa, has denied being involved in the negotiations of compensation between the Kano State government and the pharmaceutical giant Pfizer for the deaths and also permanent disabilities of the meningitis drug trial victims.
He joins us not to tell us more. He joins us now to tell us more about the incident and matters arising after 24 years. Please welcome Mr. Michael Aondoakaa as a former Attorney General of the Federation.
Good morning, sir. Welcome on News Central.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me this morning on your program.
Great.
Let's begin by first getting the scope of the Pfizer test in 1996 and how it affected the participants of the test during that time. Over 200 of them. What was the scope and how has their life been?
Well, basically, this thing, the matter started and the tests were conducted in Kano State, and the victims' unwarranted test, unverified test was done in Kano, and the victims were people in Kano, and Kano State government reacted immediately. They instituted 2 cases. 1 criminal case against the directors of Pfizer, and then a civil case again against Pfizer officials claiming damages. But essentially, this was done by Kano State government. But when they ran into difficulties because the directors of Pfizer in a criminal case has already left the country in apprehension that they will be arrested. They approached Mr. President, President Yaradua, for assistance, and that directly came to my office as Attorney General to ensure that the directors, through mutual legal assistance treaty between us and the United States, because the directors were based in the United States, and through obtaining them, arrest of them through Interpol. That is where we, federal government, came in. And we did all we could to assist Kano State government by writing to the government Attorney General of the United States, to the mutual legal assistance treaty, requesting for arrest and handover of the directors for prosecution in Nigeria. We also got an arrest through the arrest warrant issued, and from the arrest warrant, the Office of Attorney General communicated the arrest to Interpol through the Office of Inspector General to ensure that the Interpol arrest those directors that were directly involved in the inhuman test of those drugs.
Okay, sir.
That is the extent in which we came in.
Okay, sir. So now the case went to court, but eventually was settled out of court. There's a sum of $75 million that was paid, $35 million to victims, $30 million to, if I'm not mistaken, to the state, which is being used, which was supposed to be used for development of hospitals, and then 10,000 legal fees that was to be paid back to Kano State. But let's get an idea of exactly who represented Kano State in court, who represented the federal government, who represented Pfizer.
No, federal government precisely did not have a case against Pfizer. Let's make it clear. But federal government came in because without the federal attorney general, a state does not have direct dealings with another country. It has to come through the federal government, and we have a mutual legal assistance treaty. We then invoked the mutual legal assistance treaty.
Okay.
In this case, the United States had mutual legal assistance treaty, and the Office of Attorney General was the central authority.
Okay.
And the Office of the Attorney General of the United States was also the central authority in the treaty to invoke. So what Kano State did is to get us involved, to invoke the mutual legal assistance treaty, and also get the Federal Minister of Justice, the Office of Attorney General, involved in the arrest of those directors who were on the run through the use of Interpol. Of course, Kano State were represented by the former vice president, a very competent lawyer who was their lawyer in both civil and criminal matter. But we needed to give a fiat to them because the only way you could get an arrest warrant of such nature was coming from the federal attorney general. That's where it could be recognized. So we issued the fiat to the Honorable former Vice President Osabanjo, because he was then a private lawyer. He has left office as Attorney General of Lagos State, and he was a private lawyer. So for him to prosecute on behalf of the state, he needed a fiat, and that is exactly what the role I played as an Attorney General.
Okay. Who was you said the Vice President. We just need to be certain because there's so many Vice Presidents, past Vice Presidents. Which Vice President?
As a former Vice President Osabanjo, former Vice President Osabanjo, Yemi Osabanjo. He was the lawyer to Kano State government in both cases, in the criminal and in the civil matter they instituted against Pfizer.
The settlement, when they sued in the civil suit against Pfizer, the victims, they went for a $1 billion settlement. But out of court dealing, they came down to being awarded $30 million, not in hundreds, but 30 million. Why such a small amount? Because at total, it came to $70 million.
You see, the problem is this. Okay. First, federal government was not involved in the negotiation. If you have a letter in my custody, luckily you also, with a copy is in your possession. I was shocked also when I heard an international journalist trying to bring me inside. I was well shocked. The issue involved Kano State government. Our responsibility to support Kano State get justice by arresting the directors to stand trial and ensuring that that is in a criminal trial. But of course, it's criminal trial that led to them trying to settle this matter, because without the criminal trial, they were out of jurisdiction.
Okay.
In the civil matter, it would have been difficult to serve them. But in the criminal trial, we had mutual legal assistance treaty, and that's where the Office of Attorney General came in.
Okay.
We also had the Interpol. It was much easier bringing them to justice in Nigeria through the criminal trial, and then Kano can go ahead and pursue their civil case.
Okay, so
the federal government never got involved. If you see the contents of that letter,
sir, I
one surprising thing is that
ask a question regarding something that you just said. You just said that they tried to bring you in. There's sources that tell that that Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company, actually hired investigators to dig up dirt on the Attorney General, in this case yourself at the time. What did they find exactly?
What happened was that the case initially was struck out by the judge, Justice Ademola, who was then, I think, was the presiding justice around Kano, the Federal High Court, where they sought to get an arrest warrant through the Federal High Court. And when I came in, this matter started before me under my predecessor, Chief Bayojo. So when I came in, there was need for me to revalidate the fiat given to our respected Yemi Osabajo. And there was a lot of pressure, even from Pfizer, that I should not grant the fiat. And I felt that it was morally wrong for me to say the issue should die. This pressure came even within the Ministry of Health, that Pfizer has been supporting the Ministry of Health. But I stood my ground and I had the support of the president, then the President Aondoakaa, to do the right thing. And that's where Pfizer went on their way trying to dig anything they could find against me. Of course, if it was a matter that directly involved the federal government, then and the extent, we are practicing a federation. So we were to act within the extent of request by the federal Kano State government. If the Kano State government was actually trying to say we should handle the matter because Kano is part of the federation, we would have done in a different way. Because what we felt Pfizer did was disgraceful, inhuman, but Kano went on their own way, set up their committees. If you see the letter was just informing, and incidentally, the Office of Attorney General was a federal Attorney General that was actively involved. If you see what Kano said, it is the foregoing is for your record.
Sir.
That's all.
Sir.
They did not expect me to get involved.
Sir, on the settlements so far, on the settlements that it went from $1 billion and then settled at 75, with 35 million going to the victims, 30 to hospitals, and 10 more million. How have this money been used? Have the victims been able to have access to it? Have the hospitals that they that were supposed to have the other 30 million? How have they been able to? How has it been implemented so far?
Yeah, you have very eminent Nigerians. For the victims, you have the former Chief Justice, or Justice Begoro is there on the letter. They are in a better position to know whether but that's busy because of the caliber of people, they must have at least paid the victims. Then for the hospital, you also saw the committee set up by Kano State government, which Pfizer and the
Sir, are you categorically saying that the victims were paid? Are you categorically saying the victims were absolutely paid? Because even up until today, we have some reports that some victims
I'm not in a position to know. You see, from the letter that the Kano State wrote to us, they did not give us even a chance to inquire to what happened. You read the letter yourself. I was taken aback, but there was no chance. If you see the minute of President Aondoakaa, he said noted. For me, they did not even give me an information to comment. They say it's for your information and records. Not even necessary action. See, noted. There was nothing we could do. They wrote to us in October 2029 telling us they have reached a settlement. This is the settlement they have reached. They have set up committees. This is the money they have reached as settlement. And they are just informing us and they thank for the support we gave them. Finish. Coming to me as Attorney General, they say the Attorney General is copied just for information and for record. That's all. So we were not in a position to go and know whether this was sufficient. We did not know the criteria in which they arrived at that amount. And there was nothing, under a federation, there was nothing we could do. Haiti is on the concurrent list.
There were rumors that Pfizer
was...
There were rumors that Pfizer was out digging up dirt about you. Did they find anything? And if they did, what did they find?
If they found anything, I would have been in here now. All they did was to sponsor extreme negative campaign, use a lot of, there's a case in which the same judge who was in Kano came to Calabar, was out of the country, alleged that there was a money about Umbara community. My law firm participated in 1996. My law firm was counsel in the matter. And then when I came in Attorney General, I paid the money and shared. To a very ridiculous matter, I was out of the country. Damages were inflicted on me. I came in. The matter is still in court. But the good news is that under the freedom of information from the Ministry of Justice, the money was paid before I became Attorney General. The money was paid by Chief Bayoju in 2006. And in 1996, which they are alluding, I was a lawyer, a young lawyer practicing in Makodi. I had never had a chance to go to Akwa Ibom to practice or represent anybody there. The letter from Freedom of Information stated the law firms from the beginning of the case that participated, my name was not there. So the matter is in court. So certainly whatever they tried to obtain when I was representing a member of the unit roads in Rome, they obtained was obtained by fraud. So it's before the court, and I would not like to. The document speaks for itself. If you say I paid money, I shared the money, but I was not Attorney General at that time. So this were part of what Kaiser was doing all they could do. In a criminal way, they couldn't get anything. I do not, and I stand bold to say through this media that since I became Attorney General, I never had a single foreign account. And since I left office to today, I've never had a single foreign account. One of the ridiculous accusation against me, Pfizer wrote that I had a bank account in South Africa worth 40 million. Through this that data worth 40 million pounds. And I wrote both the police here and the Metropolitan Police in London to investigate, and the South African police to investigate. The most ridiculous aspect of the accusation then, I had not even visited South Africa in my life, and I have not visited South Africa till today. And it was ridiculous. So all what they have been doing has come to nothing. But since it became so much, and I was able to get records. From records, I got this letter. I am going to write the president that I need protection against this Pfizer. I'm going to write a letter, attach this letter, which is self-explicit. The Kano State got their money. The money never came. So how did I get involved in trying to allude to the fact that I did an improper or surcharge Kano State government? Kano State government got their money, did their negotiation themselves, wrote me for record. How do I get involved? But this was part of campaign. And the simple reason for that campaign was that Pfizer wanted me not to grant fiat again to the criminal matter where the former Vice President Osabajo was prosecuted. They did not want me to do it again and allow the case to die.
Real quick, sir.
To a very ridiculous manner.
Real quick, sir. We only have about a minute.
One of the Pfizer officials.
I need you to answer this in just a minute. The 1996 instance between Pfizer and Kano State was a very ugly one, with people passing away or people losing their senses and all of that. What has been put in place since then, if you are aware, to make sure that this doesn't happen again in Nigeria? People who have access or maybe interest in the health sector are also monitored by bodies here on ground in Nigeria. What has been done since then?
We have done that. We have done that now. Immediately after that, because when you have a matter on the concurrent list, it means if the federal government makes regulations or law, the state regulation becomes moribund, incoherent. Because so what we have done now, that no foreign government becomes a federal regulation and law, that you cannot come into the country to go to any state to do an experimental drug except you obtained approval of the Minister of Health or a designated officer on behalf of the Federal Minister of Health or on behalf of the President of the federal government for you. What I mean federal government is that the executive powers of the federal government, including all ministers, are derived from the powers donated to the president under Section 5 of the Constitution. So for you to do any test again in Nigeria, you must get expressly an approval of the federal government in writing.
So you earlier
So
you
I
answered the
believe such
question.
thing will not happen.
You answered the question about the lawyer who represented the victims. Who represented Pfizer?
I am not in a position to know because that would have been a breach of interest. My concern was to deal directly only with the lawyer representing the victims.
All right.
Because of the nature and manner Pfizer was interested or trying to blackmail, I was not interested to get involved with them. So I consigned myself interacting with the lawyer representing. And the lawyer representing the victims and Kano State government, the kind of pressure Pfizer was giving to me, I know that if he was not an upright man, he would have not gone ahead to prosecute the matter, to at least to a level that they have achieved something. But there was enormous pressure on both him and me not to proceed with the matter. But
Sir.
I say we must have something. Yes?
Yes. We want to say thank you very much, sir.
I said we must have something.
Yeah, there's a bit of delay.
There's a
What
delay
did you say?
there.
I can't get you.
Finish your thought real quick, sir. Go ahead.
Just go ahead, sir.
I said we vowed, me and the lawyer, Yemi or somebody, just one vowed that Pfizer must get justice. But let me tell you something in practice. A lawyer who is representing a client cannot take a decision on settlement himself. The decision of settlement is always done by the client himself. So whatever that transpired does not involve me as a federal government lawyer. And of course, by extension, the decision to accept that amount is solely that of the Kano State government under the government of Governor Ibrahim Shekau.
Thank you very much, sir. This has been very enlightening. We will continue to see how this goes and also follow any little story on this. Thank you indeed.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir.
Also, make the world see this later and try to exonerate me and possibly also the lawyer who represented the victims. We never got involved, kind of negotiated and got what they choose to get.
Many thanks to you once again. And that was Mr. Michael Aondoakaa. He is the former Attorney General of the Federation of Nigeria. It's time for us to turn our focus now, and this time face sports. And Favor is on standby. Hi, Favor. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Beautiful Sunday morning to you, of course, and Mazino.
Hey, everybody remembers me today. Yes. Take it away with the sports. Let's have all the information you want to give.
All right, quick one on sports on Breakfast Xtra. We have lots of stories lined up for you this morning. Starting from home, Nigeria, where five-time FIFA Under-17 World Cup champions, the Golden Eaglets, continue their build-up for what will be Under-17 tournament with a 7-0 victory over Udi Stars of Enugu. Now, the friendly game, which was played on Saturday evening at the FIFA Goal Project, Moshood Abiola Stadium in Abuja, saw Nigerian youngsters beat their opponents 5-0 before going into the break in the first half. Now, Udi Stars came into the second half determined not to concede another goal, but the Wafubi defending champions went on to dominate the half with another 2 goals before the referee signaled the end of the game. Now, despite the 7 goals disadvantage, Udi Stars showed some flashes of brilliance but failed to pull the trigger in their final third. And of course, that was the Golden Eaglets and preparing for the Wafubi tournament. And this is future stars preparing for, of course, some of them would eventually go on to the Super Eagles of Nigeria, like what we have, with the likes of Victor Osimhen, and not forgetting Kelechi Iheanacho. All right, now to our next story. Interestingly, it has to do with AFCON tournament, as the football calendar in 2025 is fully packed, especially with the introduction of the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup set to be played in the United States of America in June, July next year. Now, CAF initially planned to stage the AFCON 2025 in the summer of 2025, but with the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup set to be played in the same period, it has made it extremely difficult for CAF to fix the competition at that time. Now, CAF is finding it difficult as the tournament cannot be held in August 2025 because of most of the leagues across the world, especially Europe, will commence. The best and most favorable time for CAF to schedule this tournament in Morocco will be in January-February of 2026. The indecisiveness within CAF is making things a bit tougher for African football. All right, we'll wait to find out what happens next year. Don't forget, Morocco was poised to host that particular tournament, but now they may have to wait for 2026. And now to Europe to talk all things Premier League, where Chelsea came from 2 goals down to play a 2-2 draw against Aston Villa in Premier League clash on Saturday. In a game of 2 halves, Noni Madueke was the hero of Chelsea as he scored minute, and Rogers added the second for Villa just before halftime. Mauricio Pochettino's side thought they had won the game when substitute Axel Disasi scored in added time, but VAR would later judge Benoit Badashile to have committed a foul when winning the ball. The result at Old Trafford. Elsewhere, bottom club Sheffield United got relegated after a 5-1 thrashing by Newcastle United. In the other Premier League clashes on Saturday.
Robertson, Alexander-Arnold.
All right, we'll wait to see what Arsenal does today against Tottenham Hotspur. That's wraps it up on Sports Update on Breakfast Extra. We'll now go over to Dashin, waiting to take the news.
Thank you so much, Favor, for that. And now we move to the news, where we begin in Rivers State, where the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, has lamented that there is a fierce fight over the soul of the state to destroy it, but noted that only the well-meaning persons who are standing firmly with him can wield the force of unity to save it. Now, Fubara made the remark at the country home of the former governor of the state, Celestine Omehia, in Ubima Community, Kwere local government area of Rivers State on Saturday. The governor, accompanied by some elders of the state, visited Ubima to condole Omehia, who recently laid his mother, Mrs. Ezinne Omehia, to rest. Now, away from that story, a massive fiery carnage on the east-west road in Rivers State has destroyed more than dozens of vehicles, scorched goods worth millions or billions, and claimed at least 5 lives. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara, who visited the scene of the devastating tragedy on Saturday, confirmed 5 deaths and 120 burnt vehicles. Now, the devastating incident happened on Friday night along the Eleme axis of the road, which has long been neglected, increasing motorist risks. Moving away from that, the demolition of buildings in the right-of-way of the Lagos-Calabar coastal roads has been flagged off by the Minister of Works, David Umahi. The demolition exercise began at the Manichula Beach, Oniru waterfront on Saturday. Now, the minister said compensation of owners of the affected structures has been adequately factored into the project and urged those affected to see the greater good of the project. The demolition process is expected to continue for some days. Staying in West Africa, with parades in the capital Lomé, Togo's ruling party and opposition closed campaigns on Saturday before legislative elections next week after a divisive constitutional reform that has fueled political tensions. Now, Monday's ballot will take place after lawmakers this month passed the reform that critics say allow President Faure Gnassingbé to extend his family's more than 50 years in power in the small West African state. Togo's opposition boycotted the last legislative election in 2018, citing irregularities. Togo will on Monday hold legislative elections after a highly divisive constitutional reform that opponents say paves the way for President Faure Gnassingbé to further extend his family's decades-long grip on power. Now, the helm of the small West African country for nearly 20 years, Gnassingbé succeeded his father, Gnassingbé Eyadema, who ruled for almost 4 decades. Critics say the political dynasty's hold onto the small African nation will be extended by the reform. Now, people in the streets of the seaside capital Lomé were split over the election, the role of Togo's leaders, and who it should be. Sudan has requested an emergency UN Security Council meeting on what it calls UAE aggression for allegedly supporting paramilitaries battling the army. The country's official Suna news agency confirmed that Sudan's UN representative Al-Harith Idris had submitted the request. Fighting broke out in April last year between the regular army headed by Sudan's de facto leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the paramilitary rapid support forces led by his former deputy Mohammed Hamdan Daglo. Now, for months, the regular army has accused the UAE of supporting the RSF, a charge the UAE denies. Let's now head to East Africa, where 76 people in Kenya have lost their lives to floods triggered by torrential monsoon downpours since March. The government revealed this on Saturday, warning residents to brace for even heavier rainfall. Now, Kenya and its East African neighbors have been battered by stronger than usual rain in recent weeks, compounded by the El Nino weather pattern. Flash floods have submerged roads and neighborhoods, leading to the displacement of more than 130,000 people across 24,000 households, many of them in the capital as And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. It's now back to the anchors.
Thank you very much, Dashin.
Thank you, Dashin. Then that's all we can take on news. I'm going to see you at the newsroom.
I guess. Thank you. Okay, now, welcome back. It's still weekend, well, Breakfast Central here.
Oh, is it Weekend Central?
I was about to say Weekend Warrior, but then I just remembered that this isn't a Weekend Warrior segment. This is actually Wellness Central. And today on Wellness Central, we're going to be introducing to you somebody very interesting. For Wellness Central, every single weekend, we like to take a little time and focus on the fact that every little thing that you do should be to the well-being of, well, the individual, you yourself. So we give you little tips on how you can take care of yourself. Today on Wellness Central, we want to introduce our very interesting doctor here, Dr. Perfecta Osawaru. She is a dietitian, food nutritionist, and much more. You're welcome, Dr. Perfecta.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Let's get started, shall we? And first of all, I'd like for you to explain, the concept of reframing diet. That seems to be your ministry or the conversation that you have, or should I say your expertise? But talk to us about, the topic reframing diet as a lifestyle, right? And what it's all about.
Thank you so much, Juliet. Okay, so when it comes to reframing diet as a lifestyle, let's talk about the fact that a lot of nutritionists, a lot of ads on social media and apps talk about diet, this diet, that diet. And I feel like, so with the inventory of that, there's this thing with information overload, and people are oftentimes now more confused as to what to do, rather than, just like pick up something and then do it. So if we're going to talk about what diet is, it's essential to look at where it comes from, the root word of it. If you want to understand anything, you go back to the ABCs, right? I personally also feel that the word diet has been bastardized, and it has been reduced to either a weight loss or a weight gain scheme. But that's not what it's all about. So when you talk about diet, it comes from the root word dieta. It's a Greek word, and it simply means the way of life. So diet is the way of life. It's not restricted to a particular dietary, meal plan or something like that. It's a way of life. So when you want to think about reframing diet as a lifestyle, you have to think about it. What's a way of life to you? When you think about way of life, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to an average person? So if you reframe diet, you have to get off the misconception of the fact that it has to be a strict list of foods, there has to be a strict list of meals that you have to follow per time, as to the entirety. The way of life, what's your friends, who are your friends, your cycle? What's your work like? What's your sleep routine like? What's your physical activity like? So that's what it is.
So you're saying I have to kick Judith out of my life cycle because she's not helping my diet. Is that what you're actually saying? We need to take a look at everything around us.
Yes.
Just because of food, doctor?
Nah, that's what I'm saying. It's because they've pushed out diet as food on its own. But the root word is dieta, a way of life in general. It's not just restricted to a dietary, plan or something like that.
All right. So what practical steps then should individuals take to transition from viewing diet as a short-term solution to whether it's weight gain, weight loss, healthy living? What then is the practical step?
Yeah, the practical step, like I said, is the first thing in understanding that it is not it's not a short-term fix, it's a way of life. So if you're to restrict some certain things from your meal, is that sustainable for you on the long run? If you're to incorporate this particular activity into your life that is sustainable for the long run. I know Mazino loves to bike, so that's a physical activity that you know that is pleasurable.
Tell them.
Can you also tell him he needs to see a chiropractor because his lower back is most likely killing him?
Yeah, well, then there is that. But then again, every single thing that we do, whether it's our leisure, whether it's our friend, whether it all comes together in this theme that we're talking about here.
Yes.
Now, that is very interesting. So you're saying that everybody else who's put maybe everything, who's taken every other aspect out and focused on just simply food are doing it wrong. And I'm talking about the fitness experts. I'm talking about the doctors who have told you that you need to go on a diet, and I'm referring to just food. They're not doing it correctly, is what you're saying.
They're not. So yes, the nutrition comes into play, right? And so if you're restricting something, so some diets will go, you have to restrict carbs, you have to restrict protein, you have to restrict
like
macronutrients.
The keto diets and the
yes, you have
paleo.
to paleo. Exactly. I was going to talk about that. It's not. It feels like a religion right now. It's like, what are you into? Are you into paleo diet? Are you into intermittent fasting? Are you into this and that?
I hate those things.
And it shouldn't be like that.
I saw you roll your eyes when you said,
it really shouldn't be like that, because so I would say that my admonition would be to focus less on what you're limiting and more on what you can add. So every time a simple rule, you're going to have lunch right now. So there's a plate in front of you. Look at the plate and think, what can I add on to this to make it healthy? You know, the healthy eating thing, as opposed to what can I take out, limit, remove.
That goes against everything else we've been told.
Yeah.
Because when we hear diet, we think of subtraction.
Right.
But you're telling us to add on. What can I add to a plate of amala and ewedu, for instance?
Vegetables?
I get it now. So it is possible.
Yeah, so if you're just, there's this plate method where you look at it, and like 50% could be veggies, and then a quarter of it could be lean protein, and a quarter of it could be carbs. So that way you're having the entire thing. You're getting the all nutrients in. Because a healthy meal or a healthy eating would be of the foods that are like nutrient packed. It's not supposed to be a restriction or a ban on foods.
So what they normally would tell us is remove calories from your meal. Don't eat calorie. There's only...
So no, there's a place for that.
There's a place for that. Okay, so I'm glad we bring up the caloric part of it, because what is your concerns? Of course not. I'm perfectly fine. But what would then be the standard, right? Because women is different, men is different, and then if you're trying to lose weight, some persons will go as far as intermittent fasting, and then when they finally eat, they are below the recommended caloric intake for an adult like
that's why
an old man like him.
That's why I first started with the fact that you should take it away from restricting, take it away from just the foods that you eat. Everything plays a role. So what if you're eating well and you're sedentary? It's a way of life.
Why are you?
What if you're eating well and you're sedentary? Okay, what if every other thing is good and then your circle, like your mental and emotional state, is consistently in a state of imbalance? You can trick us and tell us, well, you're good, but you can't trick your body, right?
Yeah.
So if you say you're fine, your head knows that you're not fine. So there's a balance, it's a way of life. That's what I'm saying, reframing diet as a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. What's sustainable to you? And the reason why people opt for all of this, quick fixes is because it feels more, convenient.
And fashionable.
Well, I'll tell you that for free. But then how then do you now adopt the mindset? How then do you now change that mindset? Because like you said from the very beginning, we've been socially conditioned, of course, by social media to see people constantly reducing their diets and eating, and they purport themselves as someone who's living healthy. How do you change your mindset and adopt a healthier lifestyle?
When it comes to nutrition, any food that consistently spikes your blood sugar level would put you in a health fix and make you ill. So the less processed the food or the less processed the meal is, the more it aids your body in slow digestion and absorption, and that can keep you fuller. And then the old blood sugar level thing would not keep spiking up.
How do I identify these foods then?
Fast foods.
Fast foods.
They give you this old...
Yeah, well, you see what you just done. So this is
wait a minute,
of the average person out there.
Oh, that's not true.
Fast food is life.
Listen,
fast food is fast.
It's fast. Exactly, that's my point. So because of the hours that we put into a job, there's never enough time to be able to prep our meals. I'm a huge prepper. I love to prep. I love to have a fresh salad once in a while. I try to have it at least 3 times a week, either for lunch or for dinner. But it's a must I have a salad, right? But I also understand the needs or the wants that, this fast food chains, they meet as well. So, I mean, not everyday dietary intake, but at least sometimes.
Excuses. Sorry.
Cheat meal, maybe?
Cheat meal?
I mean, just a cheat. I mean, sweet tooth.
So, what are the disadvantages
She said
of that?
she loves to prep. So why don't you put a structure into your
This one doesn't know what I do for a living. Clearly, he's smiling. He's like, hey, what a child. You don't know. What a baby. We are busy 24 hours. It's a non-ending cycle. So, I mean, we're the persons who would want to go and say, okay, can you, what do they have there? Let's just do a dinner and with a cup of coffee as you're in editorial meetings and, on all of that, post-production, pre-production meetings. People who are fast-paced, who work around the clock. That's really their lifestyle.
But then it's not about because that's your lifestyle, then you're actually setting yourself up for like ailments on the long run. Because what you're doing is consistently consuming fast foods that keep spiking your blood sugar level up. So you have to choose. What is it? Is it going to be, taking a lifestyle that is going to enhance longevity, or the other?
Let's talk strategies. So now I've listened to you, and I really do want to incorporate that kind of lifestyle. Get diet, how do you put it again? Diet as a lifestyle.
Right.
What do I need to start doing strategically now? Wake up in the morning on a Monday when I'm most likely to have fast food, like she says. What do I need to do to my psyche?
Like I said, you have to be, I think you have to really be sincere with yourself when it comes to time and budgeting. What's sustainable for you? So if you can always replace that, why don't you get oatmeal instead? I mean, in the morning. There's always something else to substitute that with. I really don't advise just switching up your entire routine. It doesn't work. That's what's not sustainable, right? So when you're trying to incorporate a new change, you have to take it like in bits. You don't have to just do everything once, as in at once. You have to take it one step at a time. So if that's what you take, what about you substitute your coffee for maybe like a herbal tea or something?
Coffee's bad?
I've just found out recently that's bad.
Caffeine.
Apparently caffeine.
Coffee's bad?
Yeah, it's bad.
No, I mean, the caffeine is...
What are we left with? What kind of life is this?
No. Okay, so when it comes to ladies, like when it comes to their menstrual health, so caffeine is like an estrogen stimulator, right? So when it comes to what's bad or what's good, I feel like it has to be more to you. I mean, personified rather, or personalized, that's the word. So you have to consistently look at what are you looking to achieve, and I keep using the word sustainable because it's a way of life. It's specific to you.
I'm so glad you're saying sustainability, and now we're talking busy schedules and being able to incorporate strategies. What about mothers? Single mothers, busy dads, those who live in Shango Tedo that's driving in traffic to the island or the mainland. How are you able to do that in a very busy lifestyle there's never even enough time in the day for yourself?
Is there really never enough time?
There isn't.
Or you don't want to prioritize it? What are your time thieves? Okay.
Inquiry into the life of Judith TV. Well, I'm so glad she was staring at you and not me.
Because yours is even worse, I know. But honestly, more on the strategy, right? Eating healthy, staying healthy, exercise still matters, doesn't it?
Physical activity. And then I talked about doing something that is more pleasurable. Like I would naturally navigate towards walking or jogging. I had the marathon yesterday, right? And for me, it's not more of the work. Some people would never run. I mean, why I run it so? Is it heavenly race, right? But for me, it's like fun. I mean, it's pleasurable for me because I get to meet my friends also. So there's a social connection there. There's me doing what I love to do with my community. So what is pleasurable for you? If you were to incorporate physical activity right now, Juliet, what is pleasurable for you?
Let me see. I love weightlifting. I love boxing. I love Pilates.
Oh, why so violent? In any case, Dr. Perfecta, think today is World Day for Safety at Workplaces.
Absolutely.
As a doctor, I was wondering what you could, to end this session, what tips or what you think about this special day?
Special day safety measures?
Yeah. Yeah, safety measures at workplaces.
Work, safety at work day.
Okay.
Commemoration.
Okay.
Yeah, no pressure. Just
No pressure.
As a doctor, just give us a hint or two about safety at workplaces.
You want me to navigate it towards health or just...
Yeah,
just
do whatever doctors do.
Just say something. Say something for the workers at home, how they can be safe at their workplace,
As they
and
get
also
ready for tomorrow.
HR. As I like to call
as
it,
they get ready
HR.
for tomorrow, they could either, when it comes to their meal, they could, it's still a safety measure, like they could actually prep ahead what they want to consume so that it helps them be more productive or with their
focus.
work. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Eat.
Osawaru.
At the end of the day, eat. It's very important that you eat.
It's good to have Hadi here on the Wellness Central. We're looking forward to many more times to have you in to talk to us, especially when we have matters concerning diet or nutrition, I should actually be more specific on. Thank you indeed. Dr. Perfecto Osawaru, and we'll be seeing more of her here definitely. Now, so we have Focus Africa up next. If you stick around, well, we take you to Senegal and let's see what the Africa's newest president is doing when it comes to reconstituting relationships between Senegal and the EU.
It's time for us to focus on Africa, and this time we turn our attention to Senegal. Senegal's there's a recent development on Senegal's diplomatic relations with the European Union. Now, the newly sworn-in president, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, has called for a reassessment of the partnership between Senegal and the EU, emphasizing a need for renewed cooperation and reform. Now, President Faye, elected on a platform of radical reform and national sovereignty, recently hosted European Council President, and that's Charles Michael, where they discussed a range of issues, including the renegotiation of key contracts, particularly in the oil, gas, and fishing sectors.
Now, joining us to shed more light on these developments, we have with us Borso Tao, freelance journalist in Senegal. Borso, good to have you on with us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us. Let's start quickly, and I would like for you to elaborate on what is the aim of President Faye's specific call for reforms, or should I say rethinking the relationship between the country Senegal and the European Union.
I think simply put, it's for him and his team a question of transparency and more of a win-win relationship in his government, because I think one of his main campaign and one of the reasons why people voted for him was mainly because of that hope they had in seeing change in the international relations, change in the fact that it was not anymore a question of who was having more than Senegalese people, but what is now in favor of Senegal. And I think that's the reason why he's calling for a renewed relationship with the European Union. So basically just more transparency. So that's basically the question between in the relationship now that's being developed. A question of transparency and just seeing how best it will be in favor of Senegal.
Okay. So President Faye has emphasized the need to renegotiate oil, gas, and also fishing contracts with the EU. How significant exactly are these sectors? I want you to take them one by one. Oil, gas, and if you can spend a bit more time on fishing, which is agricultural sector.
Well, I'll start with the fishing sector because that's the one I have worked a lot on in terms of reporting and meeting villagers all across the country. What we have and what we've had for a very long time is for the past 10 years at least is just more contracts in favor of international shipping businesses, companies, and not in favor of Senegalese fishermen. Local fishermen have a hard time having the right materials they need. They have a hard time focusing on long-term projects in terms of production and in terms of having access to the sea now. Women, recently, last week, I met these women transformers. You know how they transform the fish? They salt it and prepare it to ship it in the region, across the region. They don't have that certain type of fish anymore, and they're struggling to make a living out of it. And so those are the reasons why basically local fishermen are looking for a change in the way that licenses are distributed. They're looking forward in the change that contracts are being made. Instead of just having a very limited number of tons of fishing for the artisanal fishing business, having more extended to that in their favor. So that is for the fishing business. In terms of oil and gas, that is the question everyone is asking now that, exploitation will begin. Production will begin this year. That's what's been said. But in the eyes of the local person in Saint-Louis, taking that part of Senegal up north, they are not seeing it in their favor for now. But they have hope that Bassirou Diomaye Faye, in this call for a renewed version of these contracts, will have a chance to have something in their favor. In the last 2 weeks, I visited a relocation camp in Saint-Louis. Most people who are fishermen are relocated with their families to another site about 8 kilometers away from their home, which is the sea, where they have access to all the lifestyle they need to run their fishing business. Now they are inland, they are away from it, and they have to go very far to go back to the sea area every single day. Instead of seeing the oil and gas opportunity, they're seeing more of a chance for the European Union to benefit from that oil and gas in their against them. That's how they view it, and that's why even with the efforts to rethink this relationship, Bassirou Diomaye Faye will have to come back at the local level and talk again, communicate more with the local populations about what the intents are in terms of oil and gas. What else did you mention? You mentioned fishing, oil and gas.
Yeah, I think you've concluded.
Gold.
You've
Gold is very important in Senegal as well. It's a big production, less than 5% most likely, but very important for exportation. That's how people view it. People view that the gold they have is not in their favor. One of the poorest areas in Senegal is where the gold mines are. And it's in Kédougou. It's extremely expensive for the locals. I was very surprised to go and realize that, rent, for example, in Kédougou, which is the southeast of Senegal, is way higher than rent in Dakar, simply because the gold mines have taken every opportunity to rent the best areas. And for the locals, it's poverty, extreme poverty. And those are the contrasts that we have, in areas where there are opportunities for natural resources and the population. That's why even if there is a renewed relationship with the European Union, the locals will have to understand what the intents are in their favor.
This reforms that the President Faye is asking for, and also this reassessment, does it align with his manifesto on which he campaigned on?
Well, it has to be in line. I think that's what people are waiting for. From the very beginning, the question for him was to see how best he could change his narrative as opposed to what existed for the past in the former governments. That is the key reason, and I mentioned it earlier, the key reason why people voted for him was to see that change really come to place. And it has to come in line, and people are waiting for him to stay on that line in terms of keeping his word, in terms of keeping his program, which is the project that they have, in terms of respecting the efforts that he will have to make with his government to bring everything back in favor with Senegal. Not to reject the rest of the world, not to reject the European Union, but to make it more of a win-win relationship.
Okay, then,
and a more transparent one.
All right.
As opposed to former contracts.
Okay. So European investors are being encouraged to participate in Senegal's development plans. But my question here is, what opportunities are open to these investors inside of these different sectors? You've elaborated plenty on agriculture, and that's fishing. I'm wondering, what about infrastructure? What opportunities are open to investors? Let's talk electricity, telecommunications.
Well, that's all been in the hands of foreigners. Let's put it very straightforward, you know. And that's, again, whatever I say today is something that I've exchanged with the most local population. And that's what I can share with you, because usually those are the voices that are off in the process of expressing, you know, these kind of concerns. What we have is that most of the companies that you're mentioning are in great part at the hands of foreign companies. When we look at the electricity, it is local, it looks local. But then the question is, where do the funds go? Where is the budget for it? And what part do Senegal have for that budget? When we look at the water system, we recall years back that one of the pipes blew off, and it required expertise from France to come and fix it, while we have local experts who were able to have that job done. When we look at, I don't know, anything else, everything else, the transportation, the toll system, you know, is in the hands of either France or a part of Chinese companies. That tells you a lot about what's at the hands of Senegalese finances and what's not. And that's what the people wanted to change. That's where the change needs to be seen in order to understand that Bassirou Diomaye Faye is respecting his willingness to bring that effort in favor of Senegalese people, or at least Senegalese economy. But everything that we see so far is greatly at the hands of, you know, foreign companies.
Could you provide insights into the overall sentiment in Senegal regarding these proposed reforms, right, and the future of Senegal's relationship, not just with the EU now, but also with international relations under President Faye's leadership?
I think, and it makes me smile a little bit because this question keeps coming back. It's as if, and that's what people question now from the last conversations I've had. It's as if people worry that President Bassirou Diomaye Faye and his government will not respect the international code or the international relationship as understood until here. When they talk about, today they talk about reform, but a few months or years back, I think their conversation was more radical. The vocabulary they used was more radical. And now people kind of clung onto that way of saying or that talk as opposed to what is being expressed now. It's all about reform. When we look at the CFA, for example, you know, the currency that we use, for quite some time, the question is still about, are we talking about radically changing the CFA or booting it out, or are we talking about reforming? On many occasions, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, President Diomaye Faye, said that it's all about reform, seeing the best way they can kind of change it in order to have something better in terms of Senegal economy. However, radical change cannot happen right now. Radical change will take a certain process, and it will take the time it will take. And that is why more and more people now are understanding that the first 5 years of his presidency are probably going to be in that process of seeing how best things can be reviewed and changed, not immediately, but at least in the processing. And the efforts are being made for now. They've only been here for a month, and I think that's what people are hoping for. So they're kind of giving them, the sentiment right now is to kind of give them a time to, not to test them, but to give them the space to have those kind of reforms at least drafted outside of the project that they introduced to the population during the campaign.
All right, Boris,
at least making it see how it will work, yes.
Now, let's ask, now we've got all these informations, but how are the people, the locals that you've been talking about that make the greater population, how are they receiving these changes, these informations of change that are coming?
It depends on who you talk to. One of the first moves from the mayors across the major cities, especially Dakar, and obviously people believe that if that is done, it is in immediate change, was to not relocate, but to chase away what we call marchands ambulants in French, which is the street sellers. You know those, I'm sure you have them on your side as well. But the way they are all around Dakar, the way they use the space is not how it is good for the city. And so what's happening is that for the past weeks, they're being taken away, they're being stopped in their businesses, and that is not something that they appreciate. Most of those people, when questioned, say that that's not how they thought Bassirou Diomaye Faye, and it all goes back to Bassirou Diomaye Faye. They're not seeing that these are different branches. You know, the mayor office exists with decisions to make, and the decision comes from there. But because it's a new government, everything that is done is taken into the account of the government. And so being taken away from their regular sites of work, to them is not something that they have invested for when fighting for President Diomaye Faye. And it's a lot of frustration mounting in that area of marchands ambulants, saying that this is not how they thought that the outcome would be immediately against them. Instead of viewing it as an effort to clear up the space and an effort to probably ultimately find another location for them, they're not seeing it like that. How they're seeing it is that they're being stopped in their effort to have a living and bring food back to their families. And that is just something that I can give to illustrate on that sector, how the informal sector being changed in their way of selling and in their way of using the space across the city. How are they viewing that? In other sectors, people are just expecting and waiting. You know, people are just expecting and waiting. In the public sector, there is this new reform that's been implemented not very long, which is now to force public servants like workers to kind of point in at what time they come and at what time they leave, which is so far away from the habit of workers here. So we have yet to see how many people are going to respect it and what the consequences will be. So right now what we have is just on a daily basis, Senegalese people are on the expectation. There was fake news just a few weeks ago, immediately when President Diomaye Faye became president and had his government, that the price of bread was lowered because that's what people expect. Initially, what we need to understand is that people want that change to happen in their daily lives. The bread, the price of bread, the price of oil, the price of sugar, etc. But that cannot happen at a snap of a finger. That cannot happen overnight. It will take a process. How far are people willing to go? How much patience are they going to have to see that change? So to have fake news like that run around and say that the bread is reduced is just an illustration of how much they're expecting the immediate change to take place. And the question now is, how patient will they be? Because it will not happen overnight.
Right. Borso, thank you so much for coming on and just giving us a lot. It's been very insightful talking to you. We'll keep our eyes opened to continue to follow this development as it unfolds, and then to see how, you know, this reassessment would align with what the people of Senegal hope for in the future. There's a lot on the table for President Diomaye Faye, and we'll just be on the sidelines watching. But many thanks again, Borso.
Thank you, Borso.
Thank you for having me.
And one thing I would say for certain is that if I were as well, I would also be celebrating and jubilating as well.
Under 23, yeah?
Yeah, under 23. Impressive.
Such an impressive age to actually achieve something. Best goalkeeper female in all of Africa. I mean, I bet her parents didn't Indeed I did read that her parents actually didn't want her to go into football. But then
like
again,
every other Nigerian parent.
I'm sure they can't wait to bring her out at every party. This is my daughter.
That's my daughter. Do they do that to you as well? You know when you go out?
Well, see, the thing is with me, it was about being on radio. They never wanted me to be on radio.
Oh, my friends.
But eventually, when they kept hearing and seeing me in places, they're like, "This is my son, in whom I am well pleased."
In fact, it's so funny now because it's the same with me. When I first came out of school, I wanted to do it. I did it for a very short time, and then I mean like 2 years. And he says, "Enough is enough. I sent you
now
to
go
school.
get a job.
Go get a job. That's not a job, you know." And then when I decided to revisit back, all my parents, they did a 180 real quick, and it's very supportive. And so now I don't even do. In fact, I don't like going for family events because when I get there,
show and tell.
You know, yeah, I'm not doing show and tell.
Where is that?
As I'm walking in,
My third
I've been
daughter.
asking after you. How are you? Your father just walked in. How are you doing, my dear? Sit down. My son is looking for a job.
Oh.
Do you know if I can? You know, or my daughter is. Or are you people hiring?
Well, I think they're asking the wrong question. I think they should be asking, "My son is looking for a wife."
It's okay, Mazina. It's okay. It's okay.
Weekend Warrior, congratulations, Chiamaka Nadozie. Congratulations to her. For us, she is a beacon of a house of talents, and of course, a beacon of hope for many average children out there who want to be something, especially the girl child who wants to be something in the future. And we congratulate her on her efforts, and of course, we're looking forward to looking forward to everything that she stands to gain in this effort that she has. Congratulations to her once again.
It's been quite the week, I would say, for us here at Breakfast Extra. We started out on Saturday morning bright and early at 8 a.m. and we brought you some of the biggest stories that unfolded over the week from the Ondo primaries elections, and now that the PDP and the APC have now named their flag bearer all the way down. And we also did have a conversation about the current marathon that Yahaya Bello is on. And we had the chairman of the Lagos branch here with us. That's the MBA branch, Lagos branch here with us. And he was able to go into details, not really too much details about it, but also what it would entail in terms of the legalities to better help us understand the legalities in that matter. And there were many more as well that we took inside.
We also touched
Saturday.
on the current EFCC versus Hadi Sirika. Of course, we had an expert here with us to talk about the direction of aviation in Nigeria, none other than Professor Anthony Killer, who graced us with his presence today. And of course, yes, again, we touched on the bullying incidents from the Lead British School in Abuja. We had our experts in here who gave a very robust conversation on exactly how this affects children in future and how to look out for the bullies and, of course, also the bullies as well. Yeah, very interesting conversation. I'm gonna crop that one out and put it on my social media because I thought it was very interesting. And there's a lot that parents especially have to learn about looking out for these signs that my kid is being bullied, but then yet again, the more difficult one, is my child the bully? And how to attend to these issues.
And how, better yet, and also collaboration with the schools, the teachers, as well as the parents and students as well, so that it could be more inclusive and also for society, because that's a small microcosm of our society. We also did take a look at the Pfizer versus Kano incident from the civil suits that happened in Kano, where Pfizer brought in an antibiotics that was still in testing grade and gave to over 200 children in Kano who were suffering from meningitis. We did have the former Attorney General of the Federation, and that is Mr. Michael Aondoakaa, who joined us here to give us a bit more insight on the proceedings as a civil suit, the settlement, and all that pertained that story. We also went into Creative Corner. I said Creative Corner. What am I talking about? Wellness Central, yeah. So Wellness Central was almost like Creative Corner from yesterday, if you ask me, because we had Dr. Aproko.
And today we had Dr. Perfecta. Now I
had Dr. Perfecta. There we go. So it was quite the show.
Once again, you're extending the length of the show, and I'm not happy with you.
They say it's 51 as well.
When it gets to this time, I want to go home and start my weekend, which is very different from everybody else's.
Gosh, the work never ends.
Thank you very much for all the good work you put in since last week. This is the only show that stretches across 2 different weeks. Welcome to a brand new week, and we're hoping that tomorrow starts a very glorious one for you as you set out to work. Do remember, today is supposed to be World Health Day for Safety at Work. So tomorrow when you get to work, make sure that you are safe all around you.
Yeah, and also this is a call to all of work owners. You want to start to teach your employees about, CPRs, as well as, fire extinguisher, and just, if they have allergies, how best they keep their allergens or their allergic medicines, whether it's EpiPen or pills or tablets that they take. Also, you want to take into cognizance those who have pre-existing conditions as well. Say, for example, a heart condition, diabetics as well, asthma, all those things are very, very important.
Judith, you're doing it again.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen,
information now.
Catch you guys next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone. I'll see you on Saturday, 8 a.m. again.
Bye-bye.